Welcome back for part two. Here we go. Some more review. Important terminology. And this is new-ish. Um, Review probably because you heard this before, but I think this is the first time we've seen it in a note. And so get out your highlighter, and put a big star around this. This is important. A class is an object template. It gives us a way to make many objects of a similar structure. Um, so up until now, I suppose, we've been defining these objects and dealing with them sort of one piece at a time. Phone num was an object, and then area code was a property of phone num, and then that was the value of the area code of object phone num. Well, wouldn't it be smart? We've been hinting at this? Wouldn't it be smart to have a way that everybody's phone number had this sort of setup? Um, and we'll get to that soon. Here, this one where it says function phone number, then it has three inputs. Bam, 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 three inputs. Where when I run this function, what it does is it creates an object. It creates an object that has all of those same properties that our literal object had, but this code I can run as many times as I'd like to make as many phone numbers as I'd like. This is a class. This is an object. This is a class. Now, hopefully down here I've got somewhere where we could use this function phone number. We can create many phone numbers using a phone number constructor. We've seen constructor notation, but this said object before. But instead, FIRD is a new phone number object, and then when I run this, these things get put as the value for these parameters. So 1 becomes 519, 2 becomes 222, 3 becomes 22222, and then that gets sucked into the function, and this code can be used many times to make as many phone numbers as we would like. I'm going to pause for just a moment and get this stuff copied into Notepad++ so I can show you that. I was a little unprepared, but I'm going to pause so I'm not wasting your time. All right, folks, I'm back, and here's my my new JavaScript code. There's my phone num object, which actually, as it turns out, had FIRD's phone number, and we didn't know that at all. But then I have my class phone number, which is general code that I can use over and over again. Notice right down here is where the objects are actually created. So this whole code has three objects, one there, one there, and one there. If I were to run this code, nothing would happen because I'm not asking it to print anything out. But if I wanted to, console log FIRD. Remember, that's printing out that whole object. So if I were to save that, it'll show you how that looks. So it's an object called phone number. See, there's the object name, and there's the key value pairs, all of them. And if I do a similar thing with, I could console.log dref dot area code, I'll show you that those actually were created. The FIRD object and the dref object, and those objects are of a specific type. They're phone number objects because this part was a class, and we made some objects right there. So save that, run it again, show you that it works. There's FIRD's or dref's. That was dref's area code, I think. Okay, great. That's pretty cool. So instead of having tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of different objects defined literally this way, we basically create a template, and then start punching out as many numbers as we want. So if we wanted another phone number, all we would need to do is put in one line like that. Okay? Here's some new stuff. I think that other stuff, that class business, was probably review. Certainly review of the Code Academy stuff. So prototype. If we'd like to add a new function or method, or even properties or keys or fields to an object or class, we'd use the prototype keyword. So we've got a function that defines a class or even an object defined somewhere, and we'd like to add something to it later. Well, then we'd use this prototype. So there's the syntax: object name. So that would be like phone number in capitals. Prototype is the keyword. That's a keyword. Prototype is keyword. Method name is what the name of the new function is that we do, and then the code comes to it after. The method name is a function added to all object name objects already created plus all future object name objects. So the example. So for instance, what I could do back in my code is, let's have a function called and I'm going to attach this to the phone number. Let's have a function var print num, and here's the parameters. No parameters. All we're going to do is console log this dot area code plus, oh, hang on, I'm going to put a bracket in there. Why not, eh? Bracket plus this dot area code let's see, plus this dot first three. I should have paused and typed this out too. Sorry, folks. And then plus this dot dash plus this dot last four. All right, and that's what print num is going to be. Notice that if I were to call this right now, if I were just to go print num like that, wouldn't work. Well, it would be, but the this part would be undefined. So let me just so if I were to save this and run it, it'll be goofy because when I do it this way, it's not calling, it's not, an object isn't calling. So this is kind of undefined. So I'm going to try it just for funsies and see what happens. Undefined, 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 undefined. Because there's no object calling the print num thing, so it doesn't work. So if I went back and I went something like, because I had a literal object up here, I've got this phone num dot print num, that should work. Let's see. Oh, phone num dot print num is not a function, so that doesn't work. That's not working. It is a function, but it's not a function of phone num. So what's happened here is it's trying to figure this out, but when I try to run phone print num on this, it being JavaScript's looking for that function, but it's not attached. It's a separate function. So what I need to do is I need to attach that function. Dot print num equals print num. And that way this one will get attached, and then it should work. And I'll show you the prototype in a moment. There, and that printed off because now, if I were to console log phone num, which remember was a literal, that was a literal object, it'll have that function attached to it now. Okay? Where was it? There it was. There's all the stuff. Okay? It should have that function, but I guess it doesn't list the functions that are attached to it when I print out the object. Okay, great. What's with this prototype business? Well, what I can do is I can hook up phone number dot prototype dot, and I'm just going to call it PN instead, equals print num. So that's going to attach phone number and this function. It's actually going to be called PN there. So if I run this and then I go ferd dot PN, that's going to print Ferd's phone number. Should. And actually they're the same phone number, but that was just by coincidence. Let's see. Okay, and there was the first one, and then what did we do there? Object area code. Oh, maybe that didn't work. Let's see. Oh, I think that worked. It actually PN printed out the this will actually run the function, I believe. Let's try that again. I forgot my brackets. There. So that line, the prototype line, attached my function, and then this piece of code ran the function. And notice what I could have done is I could have combined those two pieces just by doing this sort of thing. I could have had this here instead of having it in two parts. This is a function that's written separately. I could have done it this way as well. This would have worked as well. Okay? You see how they're the same thing? Written separately, written all in one stage. And that's more like what it looks like in the note. So example, let's copy that on there. This is a long lesson, folks. So bear with me. All right, so let's I'm going to copy that. Oops. Copy that. Maybe you know what I'll do? I'm going to use my screen capture. Why not? That's going to look better. Bam. There she is. There's my example. And these are the little discussion points I want to make before I go on to the next slide. So attaching a function to one object doesn't work for the other. So let me show you what I mean there. So if I were to go back, right now this attaches it to all phone numbers, but if I were to change this, and I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to change this to Ferd. Now Ferd's got Ferd will have the function attached to it, and just that object. But if I were to actually go dref.printNum, that wouldn't work because this function is attached to this object, not the dref phone number object. So I should get an error message here, is what I'm guessing. And I'll actually get another error message down there. So let me comment that out. I save that, and let's go there. Uncaught type error. Dref.printNum is not a function. So, well, I thought I attached it to the phone number class. No, I had done that before, but remember, what I did is, here it's attached to the Ferd object. The difference here is that I've attached it to the entire class. And so that means that this function, the PN function, will be on every single phone number. So now if I go, even though I'm going to comment all of this out, even though I only attached it once, I attached it to phone number, it's going to be on every object that was made with the phone number function, with the phone number class. So I'm going to save that and show you that that actually works. See? So make it once, use it 100 times. That's the whole idea here. Okay, prototype works for all. We mentioned that. Prototype works for new properties, but might not make sense that since they'd be all the same. So I'll show you what I mean here. And we won't use this very much because it doesn't make sense. So after, let's say we'd like to add a city. We'd like to add a city to our phone number prototype. We have to give it a value. Let's say it's Stratford. And that'll work, and I can go, when I go console.log FIRD, the object FIRD, and I'll save this. And run it. See, FIRD's got, it doesn't have a city. It should have a city, I thought. But I bet you if I were to console.log FIRD.city, I bet you that will say Stratford. Yes, indeed it does. So the object FIRD has a new key that has the value Stratford, but so does every single other object made with that whatev equals new phone number. And remember, the phone number constructor had 3 things. 1, 2, these are all numbers, right? And then if I were to console log whatev.city, it would have that value as well. So I'm going to just comment that out so you can see what the heck I'm talking about. So this line here attached a new key called city with the value Stratford, but every single object made with the phone number constructor will have that value, which might not make sense. So everybody's from Stratford now. That's what that's saying. Let me just run that to show you what I mean. See, even though that might not make sense that everyone's from Stratford, that, well, this sort of thing forces it to be. So if we wanted to add a new key value pair later, well, that's more difficult to do. Probably what we'd want to do is do that up here, this dot city equals, and then have a 4th thing come in, right, where we'd have a 4th thing come in. Don't mess up your code here because we're going to be goofing around with this, but that would be more like it. So then I could go Tavi. Okay, and if I save that, that might make more sense for us to do that. That way our new object that we make can have different cities constructed with a different city. All right, I've been talking too much. I've still got more to do. This one was 20 minutes. I told you it was going to be a long effort. Probably what I'll do is I'll split this lesson into 2 days, so you can sit and digest this half and then do the second half next time. But this is it for part 2.